So hi, welcome to Good Noise Podcast here with the Limelight Pod. We're going to ask some questions today. I'm going to start. So what inspired you to start the podcast?
Oh, wow. I mean, the idea of the podcast was probably around, I want to say October. And I sent out a bunch of like DMs and emails in general to people who I wanted to have on related to the industry that we both have for a podcast. And I didn't get a lot of people that came out to reply to me. And then around April 11th or April 9th was like the first episode that was uploaded on the YouTube channel, which was with Kevin Lyman. So it was like, that was the first guest that we had moving forward, and then it became like a full-time thing. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
okay.
That's sick. All right. So as you said, you've been doing this for a little bit of time. Out of all those artists and bands that you've interviewed, which one of those has made you the most starstruck, I guess?
Oh, honestly, it's just Kevin Lyman being the first guest. I mean,
a big deal.
I've said this multiple times on the podcast itself. We toured in 2017 for about 10 days in the Midwest. And when I sent him a DM, he basically snowballed this podcast. So I basically had, a slight conversation with him, like we're going to work together and get a podcast going. And then when we had a conversation, I was like, oh man, like the last time I talked to you was like 2 years ago when we were playing Knockout on a barbecue party after the day ended. So that was definitely my most, like, I guess it was starstruck, but I was more nervous because you're asking the king of tours, the king of promoting shows in itself, like the questions that he's already been answering for so long. So I was really nervous.
Coming up with questions that he hasn't gotten before would be tricky. We had one booked with him, and then it managed to fall through, and we just haven't gotten around to attempting to reschedule that. So, yeah.
I'm sure he'll find time. I mean, he's so busy all the time. Like he's always involving himself in something, whether it's a festival or a nonprofit that he totally invests his time and heart into.
Yeah.
So,
so keeping on that train, what's your most like memorable interview? Is it Kevin? Is it someone else? And it can be positive or negative. Was there one that stuck out to you where you're like, this one sucks?
This one really sucks.
I mean, I've had conversations where, in general, it was hard to kind of grasp their mindset to having it not being an interview, but also like having an open conversation about something. But I don't think I would have a personal favorite, but I would definitely say there have been podcasts where it was difficult to try to manage the conversation, I guess, if they weren't into it. I mean, and 90% of the guests that came on the show already have been so open and so stoked to conversate through whatever we wanted to discuss. I mean, I've never met Andrew Wade personally, the Phenom producer for A Day to Remember and Wage War and all those bands. But I mean, we had a good conversation. I had a good conversation with James Pileggi from Harm's Way. We don't know each other, but then I also had good conversations with my friends that I've known, from like Chris Kelly, who was on Galactic Empire, or Bruce Wagner, who's a producer who produced the band that I'm in, Poeta, our debut album. He produced Golden Fields, and he's out in California. So I wouldn't say there was like a favorite, but I've enjoyed all of them. But there has been a couple episodes where it's like hard to grasp a conversation.
Yeah,
in general,
get that 100%.
So, and that's not anybody's fault. It's just
sometimes it's just
however it goes.
It's not how it's not working out. Yeah.
It's completely valid.
How about you guys? Have you guys have like any favorites or dislikes in people you've had on?
A couple dislikes, but
and those have never actually seen the light of day. The ones that we were like, these are so bad that like they can't actually go out.
Oh no!
Actually, for like other reasons, like they shit talked us after the fact, and like we found out stuff like that. So that's why they're sitting on my hard drive in the never seeing the internet folder.
It's a great folder.
Yeah,
but like folder. Favorites. I really like talking to Nikki from New Year's Day. I feel like we don't talk about that one enough, but I really like Nikki. Sky from Super Whatever is probably both of our favorites. I'm assuming, right?
Well, I almost shit my pants when we had Bonnie on the podcast from Stand
Atlantic.
Oh,
yeah, Bonnie Stand Atlantic was huge, yeah.
I was at work when Glory called me that we got it, and I was like, oh, fuck, and I, like, lost my shit at work, so.
That was funny to hear. That was good. Yeah. So those are cool ones for us, I guess.
This guy is really cool. Yeah, because we're basically like in the same industry in itself. So, do you guys play instruments at all? Like,
Oh
do you
God,
guys
no.
play? No, really?
No,
It
no.
doesn't matter. You're still a part of the community.
Yeah.
Like, the community is what we need to do to build it together and like actually like, bring up the newcomers or make the modern ones relevant in some ways.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, most of the interviews are pretty cool, but it's just like the ones that like the people I've listened to or seen live. Like we had Motion City Soundtrack on the podcast, and I saw them live in January, right before the world ended. So like that was a full circle kind of thing. So the artists that I've been listening to forever are the ones that I'm like, holy shit, we're having them on.
And your face was fresh to them. It's like, hey, I just saw you at my show. Like,
yeah. So do you have any bands, like your eye on any bands that you're trying to have on the pod anytime soon? That you want to spill the beans, manifest.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I was going to say on the pod, I was like, I don't know. There's a lot of people I want to hit up for the podcast, but I have my eyes out for Meet Me at the Altar. I think they're going to be the next. Oh, I mean, they're killing it. I mean, when they drop that song, I'm like, this bops just as hard as Belmont or just as hard as a Knuckle Puck song. I'm looking for bands like I'm looking forward to hearing bands like that. I did hit up a couple bands. I mean, I tried hitting them up. They said like maybe, I don't know. Like it's just they're busy doing their thing. So I would like to have bands that are just interested in having a really good conversation. But I would also love to have an interest in their music in itself and their art. So, I mean, I hit up Stan Atlantic. I hit up Knuckle Puck. I mean, I hit up a plethora of bands and artists in itself. So it's just, if anybody's down to have a good conversation, I think, that's like what I'm trying to aim for.
Yeah, I mean, Meet Me at the Altar is like up here for us. Like they had always been, but like we were waiting for a new single or an album. And then the signing came alongside it, and like,
oh my God,
fuck, because it's one of the big press people now, and we never get a response from those.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like,
that's true. I'm the same way. So I reached out to their press, and they said that they moved on to Hopeless's press. So I'm like, well, guess I'm not going to hear from them then.
Yeah, because like,
which is okay. Like,
yeah, because like when they were signed with like Big Picture Media or whatever, I was like, okay, we can pull this off. Natalie, we get along with Natalie, and then Natalie was like, actually, they got press people over at Warner. I'm like, well, I've tried 450 million times to get one specific band, and it's not working out for me. So if you want to put in a word, tell them to check their spam.
Yeah, Natalie's great, dude. Becky and Natalie are like my go-to girls right now. Like I'm
Becky,
always
my best friend right there.
Yeah, she's cool shit, dude. Shout out to Becky.
Shout out Becky.
You're an MVP, dog.
For sure.
You're an MVP.
So stepping away from the podcast for a second, you actually have your own band that you mentioned, Poeta. That's crazy. That's awesome. So congrats on your most recent release for that, Anxious Racing. How do you feel in response to that single so far?
Thank you. Yeah, no, that felt good to release. That felt great to release, actually. We basically went on a hiatus for a little while after Warped Tour, just personal reasons, nothing crazy, like nothing specific. And I feel like that song in itself, that just, we put out the emotions of how we felt through that absent time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're going to probably release another song soon. I mean, with the pandemic and everything in the industry changing, we don't know how to market. I mean, we kind of know how to market, but I mean, we're taking the idea of trying to take advantage of the best situation that we can and put the songs out there and get into the most eyes and ears of people. So, yeah, I felt really good about Anxious Racing. that song was like in your face, a little gritty. That's my kind of vibe, as compared to the Golden Fields, which was like really ambient, laid back, and alternative, and just pretty. We were aiming for a pretty sound. So yeah, you'll probably see more aggressive songs from more releases eventually. Yeah, we're a little angry.
Oh thank you. It was so good, man. Yeah.
Corey's not one for heavy music too, so.
No. So that, it was really good.
I appreciate it. Kevin sings like a sweet baby angel. I mean, he's definitely a tenor like Claudio Sanchez or Anthony Green. And then our guitar player Dentino, he just writes phenomenal songs. So, I mean, it's a good collective group of guys that I work with for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Really privileged, yeah.
So keeping on the topic of Poeta, what's the future looking like for you guys? What do we got in the works here?
I mean, I don't know what's the future looking like for a lot of musicians in this industry.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, and it's sad to say this, to be honest. Like, between us three and anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, I was kind of, I'm still living at home. I have a healthy relationship, but I said to my the guys, I said, I'm glad we didn't get out there because we were basically got our feet wet, so I'm glad we didn't get out there into like a mid-tier level, because we'd be really struggling. Like, we all have full-time jobs, we're also supporting ourselves, and if we got a little bit bigger than I guess we were when we had some momentum, we might be in trouble, like a lot of those bands out there. So it's unfortunate to say in that kind of circumstance, but I'm glad we're like in a situation where it's like we can still take care of ourselves. But I mean, right now for the future, it's like keep writing and just try to release and market songs. But I don't see the industry opening up anytime soon until 2021, 2022, not even. It just depends. So I just feel really bad for the artists out there who have been doing it for so long, that rely on touring as their bread and butter, and they don't have that anymore. They've been stripped with it. So I don't know. It's hard. Yeah. It's really hard out there.
It's definitely an interesting time for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Hope it clears up sooner than later. That'd be
nice.
Great. Yeah.
How's your families, and has everybody in like your circle of family and friends like okay during this period of time?
Been doing all right.
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of COVID scares over the past couple weeks. My workplace, it's been running through there, but I've been all right so far. What about you? Holding up and everything?
Yeah, I'm holding up. I mean, it's crazy. Where I work, I had like a low grade fever, and they would not let me come in to work. Like, I had to take a 2-week off absence and then get tested for COVID, which I was totally cool with, in a sense. But no, I'm doing great. My girlfriend actually, like, I'm usually with her 9 times out of 10 during the week, and we between her and myself, like, we both have family members who are vulnerable to the virus, so we don't go anywhere. Like, we don't, if we have to do essential things like go to the grocery store or get something to eat, it's through a drive-through or a DoorDash or something, but we don't go out. We're trying to keep the CDC guidelines like at bay with our mindset, not only for ourselves but for the people who are involved in our families. It's just, you just never know. I mean, the only person I really knew of who contracted the virus was my next door neighbor. His mother passed away from COVID, and it's like, and it's like, it's it's real. It's not it's not a fairy tale. It's not fake news. This is happening every day in America. So it's just people just need to take it into consideration and just look out for one another. But so far, we're doing pretty well. We're just definitely being very. We're not putting ourselves out there too much.
Yeah, I get that.
I
mean, you brought up that, like, and up until, like, it ran through my workplace a couple weeks ago, like, no one in my close circle had come in contact with it. So it's not like I thought it was fake or anything. It was just like it hadn't personally affected me quite yet. So it was like,
right.
Yeah. So once it, like, hit, I'm like, oh shit, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and it could. I mean, and some people don't even know they contract it. It's just they hold on to it. I forget the word that it is, or the phrasing that it is, but like they don't have any symptoms of COVID in itself, and they contract it and they can pass it on still. So that's even scary.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
You just never really know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
On a lighter note, where do you see the podcast in the next 5 years?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I just, maybe the same that it's doing. I've been having great conversations with people who've come on the podcast in itself. And, I would, like to continue that on like a schedule that is, it's pretty flexible for me. So if that keeps it up, I don't know. I think I could see it in 5 years being, just something steady, just something, that I'm thoroughly enjoying. Maybe maybe have some guests on that might give me that starstruck moment, like,
Yeah.
and that'd be like, cool, like this happened. We had a conversation. I have so many questions to ask you because like I'm a huge fan. But no, I mean I'll be doing it for a while. So in the next 5 years, I could definitely see it like progressing. I just whatever happens. I just love having conversations with people. I said this to my producer. I could talk to a brick wall for like 3 hours. So let alone human beings, interacting with human beings. Like, it's just, I don't know. I could do that. If you put a couple beers in me too, like I'll definitely like talk to the drunk guy at the bar, and like we'll talk for hours in itself too. So
All right.
you never know.
Well, that's perfect for a podcast host. Gloria and I are both introverts, so we're not entirely sure how we're doing this and how it's going to translate when the world opens up and we can get like green room interviews and stuff. We're completely fucked.
Yeah, I mean, you'll still have time to go out to local shows and probably do it like at local shows in itself. Like maybe bring your equipment out there. You know what I mean? But for the time being, I think it's beneficial for us to do it at home because the only really way to have an interview is through Skype and through Zoom. And you know what's funny? I actually had one like person like comment like a negative thing out of all the content I've released. And it's like, oh, this video quality is crap. I'm like, have you watched your mainstream media? Like, they can't even get a good Skype connection. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like,
it happens.
I like to believe our connection is pretty stable. At least like Gloria and I always look pretty good. And it's like the guests who are like, oh man, that's like 2 frames every like minute. Yikes.
It goes blue for a second. It's great.
It's just as long as the audio sounds good. That's like that's where we leave things.
And that's what editing is for sure. Like,
I have a strict no editing policy.
Oh, no editing policy, really?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's what you want to do. Like, that's cool. Yeah. I never edited either. We started doing the podcast. Well, I started doing the podcast. I have my co-host now, Zach Healy. That was a good friend of mine, but I was doing it personally from Twitch, which was no editing. It was just like have the podcast upload. And now I finally got my computer fixed a little bit. There were some kinks into the podcast in itself where it would like glitch out. So like that, I think that's the only editing I would really ever do. Or if somebody cops out at like Skype.
Like, that's like when I'm like, I'll go through and edit, but I'm not like sitting there scrubbing the audio and cutting out parts I don't like.
Dude, a whole day worth. Like,
like we're turning on an interview literally every single day. I don't have time to sit there and interview and go through it and watch the entire thing. Yeah, I rely on my memory for that one and like the audio levels. If it drops really low, I'm like, they probably cut out, maybe.
Yeah.
So
maybe every day too. That's a lot. I'm only putting out an episode like once or twice a week too. You guys are really pushing it. That's pretty solid. Like, I love that.
Yeah, we don't sleep at all.
And
neither do I.
We do it all in like 3 days too, because I work a couple days and then like the weekends I'm out of the house and shit. So it's literally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after 3:00. We do everything for the entire week in those 3 days. So
great.
Gloria, do you still do some editing, or is it all you, Shane?
It's all me.
Shane records and edits and uploads. I set up everything, so when he uploads one thing, it sends it out to everything else.
Oh,
and
cool.
So I set up like the baseline stuff, and then he uses that stuff to put it out.
Zach, if you're listening, you're gonna get more jobs. Just letting you know.
It was just like, since I'm recording everything, why would I like send the footage? Because I gotta upload it anyway. So why am I gonna upload the raw footage for Gloria to then do the job that I could do that could make like it's still time out of my day to get it up on Google Drive, and then you gotta delete it and shit. So
and then I gotta upload it or download it from my side. So it's just like, I've started recording before, but it's like, sometimes I listen to music during interviews, but like really, really low. And like in the middle of one, I realized I was listening to Boyfriend by Big Time Rush on loop for the entire thing. So
it's like
I had
fading in the background.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, I've just kind of, unless Shane says, "Hey, can you record this one also?" I
like if my computer is giving me a hard time and I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be stable, because that's the only thing is, knock on wood, I'm doing that really, really loud. I haven't had anything fail yet, and we've done over 300 interviews.
Yeah.
But like, my biggest fear is one fails, and that's the one time Gloria isn't recording. So it's
of
like,
course it is,
yeah. And I mean, we finally got like our OBS settings to be the same because at one point Glory had like
Oh my God, it was
260p
at, like,
or whatever.
360.
I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck
It was
did you
so
just send
bad.
me? And it was the one
Oh my
interview I
God.
didn't show up for, so I wasn't there to record it. It's like, Glory,
Oh no!
I can barely use this. Like, I will use it, but this is
But it was
awful,
fine, though.
dude.
Yeah, the audio was fine, so that's all that matters.
The audio, I had to like take it and like bass boost it.
Oh
to
my
make it
God,
sound
yeah,
like
because
Oh no!
Yeah. So
OBS is
But
usually
it's-
reliable too.
yeah.
Sometimes it catches me on a bad day though. Sometimes OBS really catches me. I'm like, come on, man! Like, and I've done the thing where it happened twice. So I downloaded, I recorded OBS. The computer failed. This was with Tom from Thank You Scientist.
Oh.
It failed. I had to go back in the Skype conversation and re-record. However, I had to like buy a converter because the setting I have it to is like, although you cop down your computer reset, this is the file that you're capable of getting, but you can't put it into like an Adobe program. So I had to buy this converter. What is it called? I haven't had it right yet. What's it called? No, doesn't really say what it is. But Movavi video converter. Oh, dude, it cost me like $100 or something. I was like, okay,
Jesus.
I'll take the hit. So
Okay.
gotta get that out there.
you do know you can just throw it into Handbrake, which is free.
Oh, dude, I am like computer illiterate. Like,
Yeah, because
I'm literally the first
it's
person
like
to know anything about computers.
It's MKV file or whatever is like the most stable one. Like if your computer crashes, it's possible. So I also record in that format to try to like, but obviously nothing picks up on it. So I have to throw every single interview through Handbrake, which doesn't cost any money. So I know you've already spent $100, but there's your fact for the day.
There's your
Handbrake is free
replacement,
and
yeah.
does the exact same thing.
Dude, I really appreciate it. Honestly, all I do is play drums. So doing this podcast thing was like really like out of left field. So it was like,
This is great.
let me
so-
just. No, I appreciate. So are you guys. So are you guys. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I had a friend. I still have a friend who like helps me every once in a while, and like I've had jokes with him because like I'm like I don't know what to do, and this computer was crashing. And apparently, I needed some kind of new memory card. The memory card was crashing the computer, so I had to get a new one. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear my hard drive spinning right now, so it's only like a matter of time until that one goes. So I'm very worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. So for the last couple questions, we're gonna shift away from the podcast and the band and go to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Well, anything buffalo chicken is my go-to, like 110%. I don't care if I have ranch or blue cheese as a side, but if it's like buffalo chicken cheesesteaks or salads or pizza or whatever, like anything spicy is like really for me. And if it has to be a drink, like I'll definitely have a cold Yingling for it and just like kick back and try to enjoy the ride. I guess. I mean. I would rather have a lethal injection than an electrical chair. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not trying to be shocked at that. That sounds painful. Like,
It does, just a little bit. Just a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
A fictional world?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. I don't know. As soon as I think of fiction, I just like flash back to my Xbox 360 days and play Halo. So maybe that's like my go-to.
That's a sign.
Just trying to be like John 117
Mm-hmm.
and like try to save the human race from the Covenant. Oh God, dude, those were the days. Yeah.
Play that now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have much time to play video games anymore, so now you've got me like, we got like what, an hour off tonight? I gotta go play some video games. So I have the honor of asking the last question, and every single person we've spoken to have said it's the most important question. What is your favorite color?
Green.
Any
Yeah,
specific
specific
shade?
shade. Oh.
Whatever's in the background right here.
The dark.
That's my favorite color.
Emerald type,
Alright.
foresty.
Yeah, like an emerald forest green,
Alright,
dark
so
green.
Yeah. So as I said, that is all the questions we have today. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're having our podcast on all streaming platforms on Apple Music, Spotify, Google, and YouTube as well. Video, just like how you guys do it. and as well as Poeta will be releasing new music momentarily soon. You can find it on YouTube at Poeta Band, and then for the Limelight Podcast, you can find it at on all social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Limelight Podcast. Just search that in the engine, and you'll probably be able to, see it come up momentarily. So,
hell yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you for sitting down with us. This has been the Limelight Podcast, and we're the Good Noise Podcast.